The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway at 11:47 p.m. Not unusual. Jennifer often went to bed early on weekdays, but something felt off the moment I stepped inside. The silence was different, heavier. "Jen?" I called out, dropping my briefcase by the door. Nothing. I walked through the living room, noting her phone charger unplugged from the usual spot on the end table. Her favorite throw blanket was missing from the couch. I climbed the stairs, each step creaking in the emptiness. Our bedroom was untouched. The bed perfectly made, just as it had been this morning when I'd kissed her goodbye before my shift at the firm. I checked the bathroom. Her toothbrush was gone. So was her makeup. My pulse quickened. I pulled out my phone and called her, straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. Where are you? Call me back." I tried to think logically. Maybe she'd mentioned something this morning about staying at her sister's place, but Rachel lived 3 hours away, and Jennifer would have told me. We told each other everything. At least I thought we did. I called Rachel anyway. "Michael? It's almost midnight," she answered groggily. "Is Jennifer with you?" "What? No. Why would she be here on a Tuesday? She's not home. Her stuff is gone." "Gone? Like, her clothes?" I hadn't checked the closet. I yanked it open, phone still pressed to my ear. Her suitcase was missing. Several hangers hung empty. "Some of them, yeah," I said, my voice hollow. "Did you two have a fight?" "No. Everything was fine this morning. Perfect, even." Rachel went quiet for a moment. "Michael, have you noticed anything different about her lately? Any changes in behavior?" "What are you implying?" "Nothing. Look, I'm sure there's an explanation. Maybe call some of her friends?" I spent the next hour doing exactly that. Catherine hadn't heard from her. Neither had Melissa or any of the women from her book club. I even called her mother in Florida, making up some excuse about a surprise I was planning so I wouldn't alarm her. No one had seen Jennifer since yesterday, by 2 a.m. I was in my car, driving through our neighborhood like a madman. Past the coffee shop where we'd had our first date, past the park where I'd proposed. Every familiar landmark now felt like a mockery. I was about to call the police when I saw it. A notification lit up my phone screen, casting blue light across my desperate face. A text from Jennifer. Finally. But when I opened it, my world shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. The photo showed her, my wife, my Jennifer, pressed against another man in what looked like a hotel room. Her head was tilted back in laughter, his lips near her neck. She wore a red dress I'd never seen before, one that hugged curves I thought were mine alone. The caption beneath made my blood run cold. "Guess who's mine tonight?" I sat in my parked car outside our dark house, staring at that photo until my eyes burned. The man's face was partially obscured, but I could see enough. Tall, athletic build, expensive watch catching the light. His hand rested possessively on her hip, the same hip I'd traced with my fingers just 2 nights ago when we'd made love in our bed. My hands shook as I zoomed in on the image, searching for details like a detective examining crime scene evidence. The hotel room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city skyline. I recognized the distinctive silhouette of the harbor bridge in the background. The Grandview Hotel. Only 30 minutes from our house. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She wanted me to know. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was calculated, cruel. She'd planned this, packed her bags, and left our home to spend the night with him. Then she documented it, photographed her betrayal, and sent it to me like a trophy. I tried calling her. Voicemail. I called again, and again. On the 5th attempt, she answered. "Michael." Her voice was breathless, laced with something I'd never heard before. Not guilt, not remorse. Excitement. "What the fuck is this, Jennifer? What are you doing?" I heard her move, the rustle of sheets, a door closing. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm done pretending." "Pretending what?" "That I'm happy, that our life is enough, that you're enough." Each word was a knife. "We've been married for 6 years. 6 years of missionary position twice a month and conversations about mortgage rates," she interrupted. "Do you know how boring that is, Michael? How suffocating." "So you cheated on me? You couldn't have just talked to me?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Talk to you? Mr. Corporate Lawyer who's never home before midnight? Who forgot our anniversary last year? Who spends more time with his clients than his wife? That's not fair. I work to give us a good life." "I don't want a good life. I want to feel alive." Her voice softened, became almost dreamy. "Brandon makes me feel alive." Brandon. Now he had a name. "How long?" I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Does it matter?" "How long?" A pause. 8 months. 8 months. I did the math backward. That meant it started right after our trip to the Bahamas vacation I'd planned to reconnect. While I'd been thinking we were strengthening our marriage, she'd been planning her exit strategy. "I want a divorce," she said simply. "Brandon's job is transferring him to Seattle next month. I'm going with him." "You've already decided everything." "Yes." "And this photo? This text? Was that necessary?" "You deserve to know." A male voice murmured something in the background, and she giggled, a sound that used to make my heart warm, but now made my stomach turn. "I have to go." "Jennifer, wait." The line went dead. I sat there in the darkness, my phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the silence where my wife's voice had been. The woman I'd loved since we were 23. The woman who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, till death do us part. But it wasn't death that parted us. It was Brandon from Seattle with his expensive watch and his hotel room overlooking the harbor. Something cold settled into my chest, replacing the pain. It crystallized, hardened, became sharp and purposeful. If she wanted to play games, I could play too. I started the car and drove home with a clarity I hadn't felt in hours. Jennifer thought she'd won. She thought she'd dealt the killing blow and could ride off into the sunset with her new lover while I collapsed in ruins. She was wrong. By the time I walked through our front door, I wasn't the same desperate, heartbroken man who'd left. I had a plan. And unlike my wife, I knew how to play the long game. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in my home office, the one Jennifer always complained took up too much space, and began to dig. Brandon, Seattle. 8 months. I started with social media, though Jennifer had been careful. Her Instagram showed no suspicious photos, no tagged locations that didn't match her supposed whereabouts. But people always left traces. Always. I logged into our shared cell phone account, the bills I'd been paying without looking at too closely, because I'd trusted her. What a fool I'd been. There, in black and white, dozens of calls to a Seattle area code starting exactly 8 months ago. The calls usually happened during my work hours, long conversations, sometimes lasting over an hour. Late-night texts exchanged while I slept beside her, oblivious. I clicked through to her data usage. She'd been using a messaging app I didn't recognize. After some research, I discovered it was one of those privacy-focused platforms that claimed to encrypt everything, the kind people used when they had something to hide. Next, I checked our credit card statements. She had her own card on our joint account, which I'd never monitored because, again, trust. The charges told a story I'd been too blind to see. Lingerie from a boutique I'd never heard of. Not the practical cotton sets she wore at home, but expensive silk pieces with names like Midnight Seduction and Scarlet Temptation. Dinner reservations at romantic restaurants across town, on nights when she'd told me she was at book club or yoga class. A weekend spa package at the Grandview Hotel from 3 months ago. She'd been building a whole second life right under my nose, and I'd funded it. I pulled up Facebook and started searching. Brandon wasn't a common enough name to be hopeless. I filtered by Seattle, by age range, by mutual connections with people in our industry, and then I found him. Brandon Carlisle, Regional Sales Director for a pharmaceutical company. 34, divorced, no kids. His profile was mostly private, but his professional photo showed a man with confidence bordering on arrogance. Square jaw, perfectly styled hair, that expensive watch visible on his wrist. He looked exactly like the type of man who would pursue a married woman for sport. I dug deeper, using resources I'd developed as a lawyer. Public records, professional networking sites, court documents. Brandon's divorce had been finalized 2 years ago. His ex-wife had cited adultery and emotional abuse in the filing. A pattern, then. This was what he did. I found his ex-wife's name, Diana Carlisle. A quick search revealed she still used his last name professionally. She was a real estate agent in Seattle. I stared at her number for a full minute before calling. "Hello?" She answered on the third ring, professional and polite. "Miss Carlisle, you don't know me, but I need to ask you about your ex-husband, Brandon." A long pause. "Is he up to his old tricks?" "I think so. He's been seeing my wife." "I'm sorry," she said, and she sounded genuine. "For what it's worth, she's not the first, and she won't be the last." We talked for nearly an hour. Diana told me everything. How Brandon loved the chase, the thrill of taking something that belonged to someone else. How he'd pursued her while she was engaged to another man, convinced her to leave her fiancé, married her, and then grew bored within a year. How he needed constant validation, constant novelty. He'll do the same to your wife, Diana said. Once the excitement wears off, once she's fully his, he'll start looking for the next conquest. Men like Brandon don't want partners. They want trophies. How long do you think it'll take? I asked. With mine, it took 6 months after the wedding before I found his secret phone. But your wife isn't even divorced yet, is she? That's still forbidden fruit territory. My guess? 3 months after she moves to Seattle, maybe less. I thanked Diana and hung up. Then I opened a new document on my computer and began to write. Every piece of evidence, every lie, every betrayal, a timeline of Jennifer's affair, documented with the same meticulous attention to detail I'd use for a major case. But I wasn't preparing for court. I was preparing something much more devastating. Jennifer thought she could humiliate me, destroy our life together, and walk away triumphant. She'd sent me that photo thinking it would break me, that I'd crumble while she started her exciting new chapter. She didn't know me as well as she thought. By the time the sun rose, I had everything I needed. Not just evidence of the affair. Anyone could gather that. No, I had something better. I had the complete picture of who Brandon Carlisle really was, and I knew exactly how to make sure Jennifer saw it too. But not yet. Timing was everything. 3 days passed. Jennifer didn't call. She'd sent a few texts arranging times to come by the house for more of her belongings, always when she knew I'd be at work. I didn't respond. Let her think I was too devastated to function. Meanwhile, I became a ghost in my own life. I told my partners at the firm I needed 2 weeks of personal leave. They didn't ask questions when they saw my face. I stopped sleeping in our bedroom, couldn't stand the smell of her perfume still lingering on the pillows where she'd laid beside me while texting him. But I wasn't idle. I was strategic. First, I called Jennifer's mother. Not to tell her about the affair, that would come later and not from me. Instead, I played the concerned husband. Patricia, have you heard from Jennifer? She's been distant lately. I'm worried about her. Patricia, ever the protective mother, immediately went on alert. Distant how? She's been staying with a friend, says she needs space, but she won't tell me why. Has she said anything to you? No, nothing. This is the first I'm hearing about any problems. Perfect. I planted the seed and let it grow. Next was Jennifer's workplace. She was an event coordinator for a prestigious firm that prided itself on family values and traditional image. Her boss, Robert Hammond, was notoriously conservative, the type who still believed in the sanctity of marriage. I didn't contact him directly. That would be too obvious. Instead, I created an anonymous email account and sent a simple message to the company's HR department. I thought you should know that one of your event coordinators, Jennifer Thompson, has been using company resources and time for an extramarital affair. She's been booking hotel rooms on corporate accounts and conducting personal business during work hours. Attached are the relevant credit card statements and call logs. As a company that values integrity, I thought you'd want to investigate. I attached only enough evidence to be credible, nothing that could be traced back to me. Then came the masterstroke. I contacted Brandon's employer using similar methods, but with a different angle. His pharmaceutical company had strict policies about employee conduct, especially regarding relationships that could pose conflicts of interest or moral hazards. Brandon Carlisle, your regional sales director, is currently engaged in an affair with a married woman. While this might seem like personal business, you should know he's been using company travel budgets to facilitate this relationship, claiming business trips to cities where he actually met with his mistress. He's also been distracted during important client meetings. I've witnessed him prioritize personal calls over professional obligations. I made sure to time this email to hit on a Monday morning, when executives were most attentive to potential scandals. But I wasn't done. The social aspect mattered too. Jennifer and I shared a tight-knit circle of couple friends, people we'd known for years who'd celebrated holidays with us, whose kids called us aunt and uncle. She assumed they'd remain neutral or even side with her once the divorce proceedings started. I didn't tell them about the affair directly. Instead, I invited them over, separately, carefully, for drinks and dinner. Matt and Ashley first, then Kevin and Priya, then David and Nicole. Each time, I played the same role, the confused, hurt husband trying to understand where things went wrong. She just left, I told them, letting my voice crack authentically. No explanation, no warning. One day we're fine, the next she's gone. They offered sympathy, asked questions, and when they inevitably asked if there was someone else, I showed them the photo she'd sent me. Not triumphantly, reluctantly, like a man who didn't want to believe it himself. Their reactions were uniformly horrified. These were people who valued loyalty, who'd witnessed Jennifer and me build our life together. Seeing her deliberate cruelty, the mocking caption, the calculated timing, it repulsed them. "I can't believe she'd do this to you," Ashley said, tears in her eyes. "And to send you that photo? That's sadistic." Word spread quickly through our social circle. I didn't have to say anything else. They did it for me. On day 5, I finally responded to Jennifer's text about picking up her belongings. "Come by Saturday at 2 p.m. I'll be here." When she arrived, she looked radiant, glowing even. New haircut, expensive outfit, the confidence of a woman who thought she'd won. "Michael," she said, walking past me into our foyer like she owned the place, which, legally, she still half did. "Jennifer? I just need to grab a few more things. I'll be quick." "Take your time," I said calmly. "Can I ask you something first?" She paused, suspicious. "What? Are you happy? Truly happy with this decision?" Her expression softened slightly. Maybe she'd expected anger or begging. "Yes, happier than I've been in years." "I'm glad. I meant it. Everyone deserves happiness." She frowned, clearly confused by my demeanor. "You're taking this well." "What choice do I have? You've made your decision. Brandon's made his. I'm just trying to move forward." "That's very mature of you." I smiled. "I've had time to think. And you're right. We'd grown apart. Maybe this is for the best." She actually looked relieved. "I'm glad you see it that way. I was worried about how to handle telling everyone." "Oh, I wouldn't worry about that," I said. "I think most people already know." The dominoes fell faster than I'd anticipated. Jennifer's mother called her on Sunday crying, not because of the affair itself, but because she'd heard about it from her bridge club before her own daughter had the decency to tell her. Patricia's friends had seen the social media posts, because of course, once our couple friends knew, their friends knew, and in our suburban community, gossip spread like wildfire. Jennifer called me that night, furious. "What did you do? My mother is hysterical." "I didn't do anything," I said truthfully. "I told her I was worried about you. The rest? That's just people talking, Jennifer. You sent that photo to humiliate me. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences?" "You showed people that photo? That was private." "You sent it to me. Once it was in my possession, it stopped being private. And I only showed it to our closest friends when they asked if you were seeing someone else. I wasn't going to lie for you." She hung up on me. On Monday, she was called into HR at her company. I only learned about this later, but apparently, the investigation into her expense reports had revealed several irregularities. Hotel rooms charged to company accounts that didn't align with any scheduled events. Personal calls made during work hours that violated company policy. They didn't fire her, not immediately, but they suspended her pending a full review. In an industry built on reputation and trust, even the suspension was damaging. Brandon's situation was worse. His company took the allegations seriously, especially when they cross-referenced his travel expenses with his actual sales reports. The discrepancies were damning. By Wednesday, he was on administrative leave. But the real devastation came when Jennifer discovered who Brandon Carlisle really was. I'd created a fake social media profile, a young, attractive woman named Emma who worked in pharmaceutical sales. I'd sent Brandon a friend request, included a flattering message about his professional accomplishments. He accepted within hours. Over the next few days, Emma engaged him in increasingly flirtatious conversations. He responded eagerly, despite supposedly being in love with Jennifer and planning to move her to Seattle. When the messages became explicitly sexual, him sending photos, making promises, suggesting they meet, I screenshotted everything. Then I sent the entire conversation to Jennifer's phone. She called me immediately, sobbing. "Did you see this? Did you know he was—" "I suspected," I said calmly. "His ex-wife warned me he had a pattern. I wanted to verify before saying anything. I left everything for him. I ruined my life for him." "No, Jennifer. You ruined your life yourself. Brandon was just the tool you used to do it." The silence on the other end was profound. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "Michael, I'm so sorry. Can we talk about fixing this?" And there it was, the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment when she realized what she'd lost. "No," I said simply. You wanted this divorce. You wanted Brandon and Seattle and your exciting new life. So go ahead and take it. I'm sure it'll be everything you dreamed of. But he was cheating. I can't trust him. And I couldn't trust you. Funny how that works. Please, Michael, I love you. I never stopped loving you. Yes, you did. 8 months ago, you stopped. You just didn't tell me until you had a replacement lined up. I'll end things with Brandon. We can go to counseling. We can start over. The difference between us, Jennifer, is that I actually meant my vows. When I said for better or worse, I meant it. You said it because it sounded nice at the time. And the moment things got boring, the moment someone more exciting came along, you bailed. I was wrong. I see that now. You're not wrong. You're just caught, and there's a difference. I hung up. She called back 17 times that night. I didn't answer. 2 months later, I sat in my newly renovated home office. I'd torn down the wall to make it bigger, the way Jennifer had always opposed, and looked at the divorce papers my lawyer had sent over. She'd signed them without contesting anything. No fight over assets, no demands for alimony. Her lawyer had advised her that given the documented infidelity and her misuse of company resources, fighting would only make things worse. Brandon had been fired. The investigation into his expense accounts revealed a pattern of deception that went back years. He'd returned to Seattle alone, his reputation in the industry destroyed. Jennifer had moved back in with her mother. She'd lost her job, lost her friends, lost her marriage, and lost Brandon. Her social media accounts, once filled with carefully curated moments of happiness, had gone silent. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. This was what I'd worked toward, complete and total destruction of her new life, retribution for what she'd done to me. But sitting there in the quiet house, I felt nothing. The revenge had been perfect, methodical, devastating. I'd turned her own cruelty back on her tenfold, exposing every lie, destroying every relationship she valued, ensuring she understood the weight of her actions. But it didn't bring back the man I used to be, the one who believed in love and trust, the one who could sleep peacefully beside his wife without wondering if she was texting someone else. My phone buzzed. Another message from Jennifer. She sent them occasionally, always the same themes: apologies, regrets, wishes to turn back time. I deleted it without reading. The house felt emptier than ever. I'd won, but victory tasted like ashes. I'd proven I could be just as calculating and ruthless as she'd been, maybe more so. But in destroying her life, I'd hollowed out my own. I poured a scotch and walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood where we'd planned to raise children, grow old together. All those dreams had died the night she sent that photo. Revenge hadn't brought them back. It had only created more wreckage. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jennifer had wanted to feel alive, and her pursuit of that feeling had destroyed everything. I'd wanted justice, and my pursuit of that had left me just as empty. Maybe we'd both lost after all. I raised my glass to the dark window, my reflection staring back at me, tired eyes, hard expression, a man I barely recognized. To us, Jennifer, I whispered to the empty room. May we both live with what we've created. The scotch burned going down, but not as much as the truth. Satisfaction and emptiness were sometimes the same thing. And neither of us would ever be whole again.